If you follow me on social media, then you know I'm all about keeping it real. So I recently posted about how I feel about my body. And I asked my followers to take a beat and think about it. How does the appearance of another woman's body make you feel? I want to continue that conversation with my friends Sarah Nicole Landry, aka the Bird's Papaya, and Carrie Kemp, former Cityline model and also just fantastic gal about town. And we're going to talk a little bit about this because bodies are things I can talk about all day, all night. We've spent so much energy and time in the world thinking about women's bodies that sometimes it's nice to just sort of dissect a little bit of what's happening. So Sarah, I'm going to start with you. Do you think social media has changed the idea of body image and how we feel about our bodies?
Yes, in both ways. I think if anytime a pendulum swings one way, it's going to swing another as well. And we hope it lands in the middle. But let's be real. We all struggled with body image far before social media came about. It just kind of gave it a new microphone, but it also gave one to us as well to kind of show up and share our own stories.
I agree. I see it on both ends of it. Sometimes I open the page and I feel so good, and sometimes I open my feed and I feel triggered. So, Carrie, I'm going to take this to you now. How do you feel about social media and body image? Is it working? Is it working well? Is it a good place to go when it comes to body image?
So I actually believe that it depends on the accounts that you follow. You can either have that positive impact or that negative impact. If you're constantly seeing filtered photos, if you're constantly seeing those pose unrealistic expectations of what a body looks like, then you can have that negative body image. However, I do believe that it allowed for a platform for different bodies to show up and to say, this body is okay too, and this body is worthy and deserving of love.
I mean, the bottom line is, like, mainstream media, you know, even here on Cityline, you don't really see rolls and cellulite and, you know, fupa and, you know, the bumps and lumps. Like, we're not seeing that in mainstream media. So when you go to Instagram and you get to see rolls and cellulite, it's like, to me, I celebrate that. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. I know that bum. I have that bum. So it's really nice to kind of see that. But we've also talked about this whole idea of losing weight. And Sarah, your account started as a weight loss account. So you hear, like, well, first of all, you tell me, how did you feel when you're losing weight on this platform versus having kid after kid after kid and letting your body do what it needs to do?
Yeah, so I ended up losing weight after my first 3 kids. I lost 100 pounds, and that was like my big story. It was this big story that I was a mom who lost 100 pounds and documented it on social media. The problem with it is it was incredibly validating. Everyone was so happy for me, and it was like suddenly this was my success. This is what people were seeing me for. And it put my body on a performance track, and it made my body more important than every other part of me. Not only that, but it was actually congratulating. What I ended up finding out was disordered eating. I had obsessive desires around exercising up to 3 times a day. I was terrified of eating proper foods. I was also going through a divorce, and I had more anxiety and struggle around my body at my thinnest point than I ever had before. So even though it is so ingrained in our society to congratulate people when we see a change in their size, especially erring on the smaller end, we have no idea what we're complimenting and what pressure we're adding to. And to layer that, what everybody else might be hearing. So you might be saying it directly to one person, but the audience around doesn't mean that they're also that small or of that same size. And you're telling both that person and another that, hey, I like you at this size and I don't want to see you change. And you're also secondarily telling this other person that they're not of that same value because they're not of that size. Once you wake up to seeing people for beyond their bodies and stopping the body compliments, you start seeing people for so much more.
Because we are so much more. I agree with that 100%. But I also get addicted to that adulation. And it's like, I wish people were as excited when I was in the 200-pound range about the way I look in a dress. And I shouldn't care. I shouldn't care about the validation. But it feels good. And it's, to me, it's not even about my body, because I actually don't think a smaller body is a better body. I don't feel like I'm fitter when I'm smaller. but the compliments and the joy and the congratulatory comments that come along with slimming down, it's a little bit addictive. So it's really tough. Like, I really wish you could get that validation no matter what size you are.
External validation is like a drug. It gives you that high and that rush, but to actually work on other parts of yourself, it's almost like taking a daily vitamin. You don't need to chase that high anymore.
Yeah, 1000%. And Carrie, I feel like you take that vitamin every day. Like, you take the I feel good about myself vitamin often. You also get a lot of you get slammed on social media, as I have been, for your weight. Do you ever get over that? Is it ever just like whatever, it's over your head and you don't really care?
So I think my situation might be a little bit different. And I say that because I've always been in a bigger body. Like, this is something that isn't new to me. So I grew up with that constant criticism. And so it's not that I like get over it, but I'm so used to it and so numb to it now that it really doesn't bother me anymore. It's like, if that's the worst thing that I am, is a fat body or a bigger person, I'm a pretty awesome person then. Like, if that's all you've got is that I'm a big girl, I mean, there's a lot about me that you could pinpoint. And if that's the worst, I'll take it.
I want to talk to you about what your idea of health is. How would you describe health, or good health?
Actually, as someone, again, in a bigger body, I'm not allowed to talk about health because I'm always promoting obesity and an unhealthy lifestyle. It doesn't matter how much I show that I work out. It doesn't matter how I show that I eat. It doesn't matter how I show a healthy relationship between me and my husband or me and my friends. I'm constantly labeled as unhealthy. And putting a fact aside that it is a complete misrepresentation of what the body positive movement is, there's this idea that health is something that is attainable and everyone should strive for. And that's just not realistic. There are bodies out there that can't get that health that everybody puts onto us body positive advocates specifically. And so whether we like it or not, health, all health, doesn't matter your body, is something that is temporary and completely subjective.
Can you imagine the time and energy we would spend if we just weren't always hearing about bodies and appearance and all this stuff? Like, it would be amazing. You could choose to sort of live your life and focus on all these other sorts of things. I'm gonna have one more question for you, Sarah, and it's just, I know with myself, I'm constantly reminding myself of who I am and what I'm about, because social media sometimes pulls me out of that, and I've got to pull myself back. What are the messages that you say to yourself to keep yourself grounded? You've got, how many followers do you have? You've got over 1 million followers, right? That's a lot of people pulling you in a lot of different directions. What do you say to yourself to ground yourself?
I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, the relationship that matters most is the one I have with myself. And I'll be honest, I'm in my 1 year postpartum right now, and my whole world felt rocked. I felt a pure identity crisis, and it was very tied to my body and lack of sleep and life changes. There's so much that happened to women. And like you said, this great distraction that our bodies take so much from us that we lose focus on life and what's going on. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I absolutely love the way I look or that I'm confident in every single moment, but I also recognize that love and confidence are not things that are something to reach or achieve, but it's an action. And the more I realize that love is how I show up, and love is showing up, and confidence isn't something that I'm gonna get and then go and get to do other things, I realize it is the stepping out that is my love. It's the stepping out and showing up in my own life where I am right now, in the body I'm in right now, that is love and confidence. And that's what I remind myself of every single day.
Love that. We all have to remind ourselves of that, and keep doing, both of you, what you were doing, and spread that confidence and that love, because it's contagious. We all need it. So thank you, Sarah and Carrie, for being part of this conversation, and for all you do to normalize women's perfectly imperfect bodies.